Among the Aegean islands and coastlines during the Bronze Age, two different civilisations rose to power. First the Minoans on Crete, and then the Mycenaeans on mainland Greece. The Minoans constructed palace centres that were filled with vivid frescoes and that had advanced systems. The Mycenaeans built fortified citadels that showed a focus on warfare and political control. From the decipherment of early scripts to the excavation of tombs and storerooms, modern scholars have reconstructed the development, achievements, and the final decline of both societies in considerable detail. From around 3000 BCE, farming settlements on Crete had expanded into more organised communities that possibly coordinated agriculture that underpinned trade and craft production. By 2000 BCE, larger centralised structures had begun to appear, which likely led to the rise of the first palaces at Knossos, Phaistos, Malia, and Zakros. The name Minoan was later assigned by Sir Arthur Evans, who associated the culture with the mythical ruler Minos. When Evans began excavations at Knossos in 1900, he claimed that he had unearthed over 1,000 connected rooms, many of which were decorated with colourful frescoes and had tablets inscribed with Linear A. Unlike defensive strongholds, Minoan palaces remained unfortified and included paved courtyards and multi-storey buildings that relied on advanced drainage systems designed for redistribution of goods and ceremonial use. Inside these palaces, artists painted large-scale frescoes that depicted rituals and seasonal festivals that expressed symbols connected to the natural world. For example, bull-leaping scenes and processions involving priestesses suggested religious rites that focused on animal symbolism and fertility. These paintings were created by the true fresco or buon fresco technique, in which pigments were typically applied to wet plaster. Their written language, which was known as Linear A and had not yet been deciphered, appeared on tablets, ceilings, and ritual objects. Scholars generally believe that Minoan religion centered on goddesses, sacred animals, and natural cycles, based on repeated religious images and the locations of shrines, which included mountaintop sanctuaries, caves, and palace chambers. As trade networks expanded across the eastern Mediterranean, the Minoans likely exported goods such as pottery and textiles, and possibly olive oil and saffron. They received raw materials such as copper from Cyprus and ivory from Syria. At the same time, Mycenaean communities on the Greek mainland developed fortified citadels and elite graves that showed growing wealth and military influence to some degree. From around 1600 BCE, major Mycenaean sites such as Mycenae, Pylos, Tiryns, and Thebes had built stone-walled palaces, which featured central megaron halls and storage rooms that supported palace economies. The Mycenaeans used Linear B to record inventories and personnel lists that documented offerings. Michael Ventris successfully deciphered Linear B in 1952, which confirmed its use as an early form of the Greek language. In contrast with the Minoans, Mycenaean art and architecture showed a more ranked and militarized society. Shaft graves and tholos tombs held gold masks that accompanied bronze weapons and decorated armour. Finds from Grave Circle A at Mycenae, which dates to circa 1600 to 1500 BCE, included ceremonial daggers inlaid with hunting scenes and gold death masks that covered the faces of elite males. These 19 burials contained over 15 kilograms of gold, which clearly showed the wealth and status of the ruling class. As a result, archaeologists believe that the Mycenaean elite relied on both military prestige and control of production to assert their power. Pottery from Mycenaean workshops was found at sites across the eastern Mediterranean, which indicated that their influence reached distant coastal communities and island settlements. After 1450 BCE, Minoan palaces experienced widespread damage caused by earthquakes and volcanic activity on nearby Thera. Attacks from the mainland also played a part. The eruption of Thera, which was initially dated by radiocarbon methods to around 1600 to 1627 BCE, but was placed later by matching Egyptian records, may have caused regional instability in addition to the damaged infrastructure. Knossos survived longer than other sites, and the Linear B tablets found there indicate that Mycenaean scribes had taken on administrative duties, which suggested external influence or possible control. At this point, Mycenaean rule adopted many Minoan cultural elements, including fresco styles and religious symbols that also inform manufacturing techniques. However, burial customs and political organisation remained without change. From 1300 to 1200 BCE, Mycenaean power reached its height as palaces operated as central authorities, directing resources and labour together with organised worship, under a clear hierarchy led by a one-axe, the term for king used in Linear B texts. However, during the decades after 1200 BCE, all Mycenaean centres collapsed as palaces were destroyed, Linear B stopped being used, and populations generally dispersed into smaller, rural communities. Scholars suggest that possible causes of the collapse included internal unrest, invasion, disruption of trade routes, and environmental pressure. Finds such as the bronze dendra panoply near Argos had offered further evidence of the military build-up in Mycenaean society before the final collapse. And as a result, the Greek mainland entered a period of illiteracy and reduced contact known as the Greek Dark Age, which lasted roughly from 1100 to 800 BCE. By the 8th century BCE, oral traditions had kept some long memories of Mycenaean society. Surviving poetry described warrior kings and fortified palaces which featured in epic accounts of sea voyages that recalled aspects of the Bronze Age world. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey referred to armour and rituals that showed social values aligned with earlier Mycenaean models. Agamemnon, presented as king of Mycenae in Homeric legend, may have been inspired by real Mycenaean figures whose names appeared in Linear B records. Stories about the labyrinth, Minos, and the Minotaur have been interpreted by scholars as mythic echoes of the once powerful Minoan palaces. On the basis of archaeology and early writings, modern historians have largely reconstructed the roles that the Minoans and Mycenaeans played in developing palace administration, religious ceremonies, and art. The Minoans contributed techniques in craftsmanship, architecture, and trade, and the Mycenaeans introduced military infrastructure, Greek language writing, and long-distance political control. Their achievements became the foundation of later Greek development, and their influence persisted in both surviving objects and stories. After centuries of obscurity, the Greek world began to recover gradually in the 8th century BCE with the adoption of the alphabet, adapted from Phoenician script, and the return of large-scale building and overseas contact. I hope that you have enjoyed learning about these two ancient Greek cultures. If you'd like to discover more, be sure to check out the free resources on the History Skills website.